Satya Dharma Reflection on February 12, 2022. Let's purify the attempt to dwell within the mind. Continue with the uninvolved with the non-attachment. Don't dwell with the non-attachment. Just like no grasping the non-attachment itself. The attempt to dwell within the mind is still a lot. Therefore, it is still obstructing the blessing. It's still samsara and realms of existence. Uninvolved within itself constantly. Uninvolved within itself. That which has nothing to do with the non-attachment itself. It's beyond the kind of mindfulness of cutting even the cutter itself. It's beyond having mindfulness to cut anything. This is cutting within the cutting itself. Within the non-attachment, there is cutting already. However, that which has nothing to do with the non-attachment is called the great compassion. It has no trace. It's not just the body-mind form of formlessness, inside or outside. It is unbound. It is the great compassion. Continue with the uninvolved, with the non-attachment. Then it will not be stuck with just cutting or extinction. It will further continue as a great compassion. What is it? There will be an assumed proceeding towards samsara in purification of extinction and emptiness, which is called the great compassion. If to be stuck with just disregarding or cutting, that is called self-extinction. It is not yet beneficial for samsara. That which has nothing to do with being bound or being free. It is a very good purification for samsara through the Mahasunyata. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. May we all, humans and non-humans, in all realms of existence, from the lowest hell realms until the Brahma realms, including all the special karmic payback zones, humbly bow down towards the first great Buddha, all the Buddhas in every Buddha era, the Maha Buddhas, the Maha Bodhisattvas, the Maha Bharami, in all graces, please preside over. Humbly declare renunciation and evocation of all deluded desires and expectations and wishes within the body and mind, form and formlessness, within looking, seeing and knowing, all the deluded desires and expectations towards all things and all elements, towards the four elements of earth, air, water and fire. May we declare renunciation and evocation of all deluded desires and expectations within the worldly, and within Dharma. May we declare renunciation and invocation of all deluded desires and expectations within friends, relatives, and followers, within husbands and wives, within sons and daughters, deludedly having desires and expectations towards gurus and great gurus, towards the Mahaparami. May we declare renunciation and invocation of all deluded desires and expectations towards the path to the enlightenment, towards liberation of sufferings. The deluded desires and expectations within great blessed fortunes and perfections, deludedly having desires and expectations towards practices for mindfulness, concentration, wisdoms, meditative powers, special insights, supernatural powers, meditative powers, deludedly setting up to gain and attain states of Dharma attainment. May we declare renunciation and invocation of all of these, and may we all cancel from all vengeance, all the harbor thoughts of revenge, all the mindset to reject, all curses, all the commitments and obligations, all the vows which are not aligned with the essence of the Buddhas. May we declare renunciation and invocation of all of these, and may we humbly ask for forgiveness for all cases of karma in relation towards all graces, towards all those we owe gratitude to, and from all beings which are not in the way of emptiness to emptiness, nibbana to nibbana, all the delusion of rejection towards all graces, all the opposed and having conflicts and blocking and offense through words, thoughts, and actions, and all karma that we have done, not in a way as a role model of putting down and letting go, and leading all beings to delusively circling both in worldly and in Dharma, leading one another to delusively circling in living the life, in being in realms of existence, or leading one another to practice, passing on the contents which are not aligned with Nibbana as it is. In all cases of karma, in all types of karma, may we all humbly ask for forgiveness towards the Mahaparami to please preside over and forgive ahosikam for all cases of karma from now on. In every Buddha era, in all ages and times, in all lifetimes, in all periods of times, all cases of karma which overlay the body, mind, and Dharma, which are not aligned with emptiness to emptiness, may everything be ahosi, ahosi, ahosi. And may we all humbly offer the Mahasankhathan together with the four necessities, with all followers, both in humans and non-humans. May we humbly invite the Mahaparami in all graces to please preside over and to receive the Mahasankhathan from all of us. May all beings in all realms of existence, in all groups, all the karmic debtors and the karmic debtors of the karmic debtors be part of this offering, this giving and sacrifices from all of us, and be part of the alignment of Nibbana as it is and be part of the blessing of beings, following the Buddhas, following the Mahabarami, forever and ever. Whatever actions that has done, it should be in the way of disregarding to disregarding altogether. Don't mix anything much into it. Then it will be without flaw. No matter how coarse or subtlety or normal, let's do it in the way of disregarding to disregarding altogether, so that it will be without flaw, without stain. The actions that purify itself altogether. Don't add anything into it. All types of minds are mental karma, mental karmic difficulties. Therefore, don't add more into it. There is no need to add more karma and karmic difficulties of the mind on and on. Whatsoever, just disregard to disregard altogether, so that there will be purification of extinction and emptiness altogether. In every Buddha era and in all periods of time, because of not disregarding to disregarding altogether, therefore there's a lot of karmic difficulties that remains. They are only interrelation between mind to mind, verbal to verbal, mental to mental. Being obsessed with interrelations between senses and senses, sense objects and sense objects. Therefore, there's a lot of karmic difficulties. If disregard to the disregard altogether, it becomes great compassion altogether. If just disregarding, there is no proceeding of the compassion and great compassion. That's why let's uninvolve with the disregarding constantly. Continue to uninvolve with disregarding or regarding. Naturally, it will turn into the purification of the emptiness and no traces. Let's not be stuck with just the eyes and the sight, the ears and the sound. Let's not be stuck with just the nose and the smells, the tongue and the taste. Let's not be stuck with just the body and the perceiving. the senses and the perception. Let's not be stuck with just the physical body and actions. Let's not be stuck with just the mind and all things. Let's not be stuck with just the mind and emotions. Let's not be stuck with just the mind and perceptions within senses and sense objects of perceptions. Disregard and disregard altogether. That's already happening of the purification of the extinction among one another. Help give ending to the lifetimes. Lifetime is karmic difficulties actually. Let's end the cycle of karma and karmic difficulties to help one another. Disregard to disregard altogether. If using the mind to the mind, it will just add on the karma and karmic difficulties, realm of existence and lifetimes. In order to help end for samsara, there are no complications at all. But there are complications because it's not giving ending to it. Being busy using the mind towards all things. There is no purification of the extinction. There is just arising to the arising. There are no complications. In order to help give ending for samsara, just disregard to disregard altogether. Disregard even from the disregard itself. Let it be all the same. Disregard even from the disregard itself, all the same. Without discrimination, without differentiations. There is no need to delusively discriminate or distinguish anything. Let it be even altogether in everything. Disregard even from the disregard itself, all the same with everything. Let's purify the differentiations of the opinions entirely. Disregard even from the disregard itself will purify the lifetime of the opinions, samsara of titi. It will give ending to the samsara of titi, samsara of opinions, including all about vicca and avicca, all about knowing and not knowing. Then it will give ending to samsara of knowing or not knowing. Disregard even to the disregard itself, all the same. All of these samsara of knowing, seeing, and opinions will not become as such. It will be only the Maha Karuna, the great compassion of helping giving ending only. One intentional knowing, one intentional seeing. Will be founded by the disregarding to the disregarding altogether. The form and formlessness of assumed up will be founded by Nirodha and Nibbana. which is the ambassador of the blessing. It is the great compassion. Use it for the blessing. It is not about taking into oneself. It is not about trying to make a conclusion to take into oneself. Every single sentence is to be given for samsara. It's not about taking into oneself. The ending is to be given for samsara. It is not about grasping for it. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, all the same as such. Both for the disregarding and the uninvolved will give ending to the cycle of the karmic difficulties. It will give ending for the whirlpool. It will give ending to the cycle of samsara within all and everything, as helping for one another. This is the great compassion. This is not non-attachment within the non-attachment, the uninvolved within the uninvolved. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. There is no limit in helping through unwinding and releasing. Naturally, it will be purification of the emptiness. This is not just disregarding within the disregarding itself. Disregard from the disregard itself is called no grasping to the disregarding itself. Naturally, there will be no limit in the purification of the extinction and the emptiness. This is not only about disregarding within the disregarding or just disregarding. Disregard from the disregard itself, disregard uninvolved with itself. Disregard from the disregard itself. It will turn into the great compassion in the purification of extinction and emptiness all by itself. It is not just extinction. This is not about emptiness and that's it. This is all one. Samsara and the essence is all one in all times. This is not about disregarding and that's it, extinction and that's it. It is actually one with samsara at any time. It's called the great compassion. The extinction is uninvolved with itself. Disregarding is uninvolved with itself. Then it will shift into the great compassion immediately. Help through the unwinding and releasing in the way without traces. In the way without advertisement. Helping through unwinding and releasing without traces. In the way without traces. No traces of titi. The traces of the insights. Purify through the no traces and that's it. Without the need to make known to anyone that is already being blessed. There is no need to make anyone know that they are blessed. If they know themselves that they are blessed, there will be no purification to that consciousness. Therefore, the purification of extinction and emptiness is the purification without traces. In that instant, those who are blessed, all things, all elements and samsara, will not be conscious that they are being blessed. Even they are conscious of it later on, that's another thing. Therefore, that which has nothing to do with disregarding all the same. Those who blessed will not have self-importance of the blessing. It's just a form of the blessing, that's all. It's like there is simultaneous purification in the whole samsara. Inside and outside is purified simultaneously. Those who bless beings will not have self-importance as a blesser. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, has no effects, only just self-purification. The effect is not just with self-purification, but it is simultaneous with the purification of samsara in an instant. When the senses and sense objects of perceptions are already opened, disregard, even from the disregard itself that is automatic, then all the senses and sense objects of perceptions already have the great compassion for samsara. There is no complication with just crudeness or subtleties to have traces. Crudeness or subtleties still have traces. No attach, even to the non-attachment itself, is already great. And all the senses and the senses objects of perceptions are opened, then it becomes great compassion already in themselves. They are not the senses and sense objects of perception that are entrapped in themselves. Let them be one with samsara. This is not about senses are for the sake of themselves. They are not the senses and sense perception that are for the sake of themselves. That is being limited. If uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, already automatically, all the senses and sense perception that already appear becomes great compassion and is one with samsara already. The senses will not be limited and entrapped within themselves. The sense perception will not be entrapped within themselves. The sense perception will not be limited within itself. It is the unbound. That's called purification of the emptiness towards samsara. There are no complications at all. It is not to aim towards the crudeness or the subtleties to create complications here. Disregard, even from the disregard itself right away. Let the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind and all sense perception opening as such. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, as one with everything. Is not misaligned from the great compassion at all in this way. The Mahakaruna or the great compassion of purification of the extinction and emptiness. Therefore, to give ending, it means using the ending to help is not to grasp it towards oneself. Whatever that is given is just to continue to give further on. It's not about taking in to oneself. It is not about giving out in order to grasp it to oneself. Give further towards samsara. The ending that is given is to be given for samsara towards ending. This is not about grasping the ending into oneself. Giving ending to is meant to give ending further on. It's not to take into oneself. This is not about ending, grasping for ending. Where is it from? That is weird. The grasping is weird thing. Grasping towards the non-grasping. Grasping towards that which is not about grasping, therefore it creates suffering. Including the tithi, opinions that is haunting, gaining, losing, that is tithi, that is haunting, grasping towards the non-grasping. The ending that is given is to be used to give ending for samsara. All that is given is to continue to give, enable to give further on. It's not about taking in to oneself. What is it that is taking in to oneself? That is taking towards something that is not about taking. Therefore, it creates suffering. The grasping itself is the suffering. Just confronting with the tithi that is haunted is already terrible. Delusively thinking to gain, to lose, to have or to finish. This is letting the tithi to deceive and haunt oneself. Therefore, in each Buddha era, in each Buddha Kalpa, just giving ending only. It's not just disregarding to disregarding altogether. disregard even from the disregard itself all the same, without choosing when, with climate, elements, beings, without discrimination. Everything is even, giving ending to evenly, without discrimination. Disregard even from the disregard itself, all the same with everything. Then there will be purification towards all the discrimination, towards all the differentiations, to help one another. It will help one another to give ending to the circling and the preoccupation. Let's keep all the senses and the sense perception opening as such. It will turn into the senses as sense perception of the great compassion naturally. Well, to conclude, through Nirodha and Nibbana, disregard even from the disregard itself, no attach even to the non-attachment itself, disregard even from the disregard itself. Let's make a conclusion well with Nirodha and Nibbana towards all the senses, and the body and mind that already exist will turn into the great compassion immediately. That is the senses and sense perceptions of the blessing. Continue to conclude through Nirodha and Nibbana for samsara, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Continue to end as helping disregard even from the disregard itself. Continue to make a conclusion through Nirodha and Nibbana. The sentence that is Nirodha and Nibbana within itself, well with it, disregard even from the disregard itself, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. No grasping even to the non-grasping itself. This is not about circling within grasping or non-grasping. Non-grasping even to the non-grasping itself. There's not circling with just involving or uninvolving. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Let's conclude through Nirodha and Nibbana for samsara. Sara, 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 Sara,